you have to be open to change in the curveball that you just did not plan and did not see coming.
What happens when you lead a sales organization where the buying cycle doesn't just depend on budget, but much rather on things like elections, funding freezes, and front page headline? Now, what happens when selling becomes less about speed and much more about navigating complexity with clarity? That's the world of Bill Rowan. Bill is the VP of Public Sector at Splunk/Cisco, who has spent his career helping teams sell into one of the most complicated environments around, which is government, federal, state, local, around 19,000 municipalities, shadow hierarchies, ecosystem of partners, and so forth. And yet Bill believes, which I absolutely love, the answer to complexity is simplicity. A way of leading which creates consistency, focus, discipline, even when everything around you is unpredictable. In today's episode, we explore how great leaders bring order to that chaos. Bill, welcome to the B2B Sales Trends podcast.
Harry, thank you so very much. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you. It is a pleasure to have you here. Let's set a bit the stage here. You've operated, or you are operating, in one of the most complex sales arenas in the world, right? Federal, states, local, and everything else in between. For listeners meeting you for the first time, how do you describe that world that you lead?
So it's an interesting world. I think one of the dynamics that separates the public sector arena from a lot of the commercial enterprise arenas, if you will, is that most of our customers' problems are either on the news or on the front page of a newspaper in one shape or form on a day-to-day basis. And it can be from as simplistic as a local municipality in the middle of the state of Illinois or in the state of Texas or a small municipality someplace in New Mexico, or it can be in the New York Times, the San Francisco Chronicle or the Washington Post. It could be on a national scale or a local scale, but it's issues that are being driven either by local events, local needs of constituents and the people that voted for politicians and their needs, or it could be a geopolitical event that is driving something of our nation and its national security. So in some respects, it's kind of awareness that everybody else has. It's a question of how are we accomplishing and what are the things needing to be done to accomplish those.
And how does that level of public transparency shape the way your teams need to sell? It sounds to me incredibly challenging.
Well, I think it's interesting. While there are significant amount of those of challenges that are involved, and those challenges can be anything, as you mentioned in your opening, from budget cycles to the contracting process can be very complicated and may not make a lot of sense to a lot of people. There's also a great deal of comfort in that when you've been in this business for quite some time, there's actually quite a great deal of predictability that also goes along with it. So if you understand what the client is trying to get in terms of an outcome, whether it's a mission outcome, if we're talking about something maybe in the Department of Defense or in Homeland Security or in a local municipality around a sheriff's office, or for that matter, maybe it deals with electrical delivery of electricity from a municipality or picking up of trash collection or water safety. Once you understand what they're trying to achieve, the steps by where we go about and how we help them achieve those success of that and how we help them measure that success and report back on that success to whoever is their overseeing authority. um, a lot of times those same situations are repeatable multiple times across the entire country. The problem that that municipality in Colorado Springs may have around their water authority is repeatable, literally hundreds, if not thousands of times across this country. Solve it once, you can repeat that same type of sales play. The contracting may be a little bit different, but the essence of the sales play is ostensibly the same across the country.
That's interesting. And we always talk about, nowadays what really is required is that mindset and skill set on putting, typically the customer first, or the whoever's going to use our product or services, and we need to get around shaping our thinking and our skill set around the outcomes that we can help them achieve. And you just mentioned outcomes. Sounds like this is very similar in public sector.
It without a doubt, it's almost identical. We focus on outcome selling. What is going to be what is the client trying to achieve? I think that sometimes our customers have a vision of what they're trying to where they want to get to. Maybe they can't describe it completely, but they have a vision of what they want that to look like. Maybe we can help them with that vision based upon some other type of project we've done very similar. And in that respect, we're helping shape the opportunity, no different than an enterprise organization would. But the reality is it's all outcome based, because I think to the vast majority in the public sector arena, the constituents can understand the outcome. Outcome-based selling is very simplistic to try to report back out to whether it's a city council or a state legislature, or for that matter, to the federal government and to Congress. Here's the outcome we were trying to achieve, and here's the outcome we're happy to report that we were able to get. In some respects, it's the ultimate ROI. Here's what we were trying to achieve, and here's what we were able to achieve.
Right. I love it. Um, how do you ensure that your people do that with consistency at a high level? Because I assume, and correct me please if I'm wrong here, I assume that these public sector stakeholders, they are savvy, they're demanding, they're tough to deal with, they're complex sales processes. So how do you get your people to stay patient? How do you get them to stay resilient? How do you get them to stay, motivated? And what does it mean to be outcome focused?
Well, I think that the staying focused piece, this is where leadership comes into play.
Right.
And the difference between being as much a leader as it is, are we as being a coach at the same time? Are we helping coaching them through those tough times? Are we helping them work through what their plan looks like? What's going to be the next step? How would they, role play against us? What do they see the challenges or the hurdles? How are they utilizing the ecosystem around their account to their advantage? Where are the blind spots? I think the more a team can utilize, let's face it, in many times in these accounts, they can be quite large. And in some cases, we're a team of one or two in these accounts that could have thousands of people and multiple stakeholders. So how are you going to ensure you're getting all the intelligence you need to get to ensure you're getting to the right spot? You're bringing in all the intelligence you need to bring in to ensure you're putting together a winning proposal that's going to drive the outcome you were looking to drive. That can be very complex with a small team. So, how are you utilizing your partners? Maybe they're systems integrators, maybe they're value added resellers, maybe they're other ecosystem partners. Is your solution set sitting inside of a hyperscaler, an Amazon, an Azure, a Google? Who do they have that is involved in the accounts that you can work through? Do you have other ecosystem partners? Maybe your solution set ties into my parent company, Cisco Corporation. Maybe you partner with Dell, HP, maybe it's Palo Alto, maybe it's Okta, Salesforce. There's tons of other ecosystem partners that we work around these accounts. and how are you leveraging those relationships that may be involved with your technology to help gain intelligence into the account, to understand players that you may not have relationships with, but may be influencing the outcomes, and how are you using it as a part of your planning around that account to gather as much intelligence to help drive the outcomes that you're looking to drive.
That's interesting. I mean, for me, that sounds also incredibly challenging to ensure that you're influencing that ecosystem. And I like what you said about this simplicity mindset in a way that it's all about outcomes. I would assume that would also apply to the partners, the stakeholders, and all those relationships too, because everybody needs to create outcomes for what they're looking for, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think as much as we're trying, I mean, the reality is as much as you're trying to leverage information from them, they're trying to leverage information from you. We're we're equal partners in in this situation. So you're really helping each other. Now, may there be some aspect of co-opetition? Certainly, but I think that you have to understand the market dynamics. You have to understand who you're talking to. Are they a friend? Are they a foe? Are they a competitor at times? Are they a partner at times? And I think that's just as important to understand in the account set as anything else. I'm constantly asking the constant question I ask my leaders to ask their teams are, do you understand who your competitors are in the account? Could you recognize these people on site? You know, during the time of COVID when so much stuff was done virtually, you really didn't have a chance, if you will, to walk the hall and maybe bump into one of your competitors. Well, I think it's just as important to understand not only who your partners are, but who those competitors are. Are you seeing those people in the account? Do you know who they are? Do you know enough to say hello to them? Do you know enough to, if you see them at a conference to and you see them talking to your customer, does that set off a bell and whistle in your hat? So a lot of this is just it's about gathering intelligence around the account. Yes, it takes some time, but I and I please no disrespect to the folks that work maybe at a Verizon or an AT&T phone store, but what separates sales professionals is the way we go about doing our planning and the way we approach the business and the way you take that account plan and focus it towards the business. If you're not interested in that, go work in an AT&T phone store or a Verizon phone store where people are just coming through the door and you're selling them something. But this is the next level of professionalism. And if you're going to take that professionalism, you got to put in the effort that's going to ultimately drive the outcomes and a continued relationship with that client over years.
It's interesting. You mentioned so many things that in the day and age of AI, where all the information and data is so available to everybody, there were initially fears that the sales profession at some point will go away. And my opinion of that would be to that all the data, all the AI, the people who can handle that and integrate it at best into their outcome-based conversations, those are the ones who are going to win this. Do you agree with that?
Completely.
Right.
I think, I look at my organization as a whole and say, I want them to embrace, I want them to be able to use the AI tools that are available to them. We have some models that we use internally, and I want them to use them for their planning purposes and maybe helping build presentations, going out looking at what's out there that the client might have that we can pull in along with our Salesforce data. Again, using our internal large language models. But at the same time, you've gotta be able to incorporate that which you know and the relationship you have with the client, and it's how you're integrating those 2 things that ultimately is gonna lead us to a win. An AI model can't read the mind
Yeah.
and put forth that focus of that relationship you've established.
Let's talk a little bit about how to drive consistency. When you're leading a large, fast-moving sales organization, consistency becomes everything, or hugely important. In our pre-call to this recording, you mentioned the three Ps, which I really enjoyed. Share with us that framework or that model that I believe drives great consistency. And how did you build it?
So it's interesting, and a little bit of this is pulled from different leaders that I've had the opportunity to work for. And the three P's in the most simplistic breakdown are participation, productivity, and pricing discipline. And what happened when I came into my particular role today at Splunk was I found that I came into an organization that had had a significant amount of turnover post COVID. And so as I was looking at how we were doing, what I found was while we were doing okay, maybe a little bit below where I would have an expectation, I found that I did not have as much participation in both the building of pipeline and forecasting that I wanted to have. What I also found was that when you started to inspect those deals, I didn't have a consistency in terms of a pricing discounting discipline, i.e., my biggest deals got my most aggressive discount, and I had some low deals that shouldn't have gotten as aggressive discount. When you inspected that, the leaders said, "Well, we don't have access to a lot of this information." Okay, we can fix a lot of this. So I asked them in the beginning to really focus on making sure that as they inspected their people, they were looking at how much pipeline everybody was building and how much participation as a whole in the organization people were actually forecasting business. So that if somebody dropped something out of their forecast, they weren't single threaded. They had many other deals that were in the forecast that could help them continue to hold that forecast level. And then secondary to that is giving them data behind what was the history of and breaking down into different levels, say 0 to 50, 50 to 100, 100 to 250, 250 to 500, a million and a million over. What was the average discount within our organization for deals of that size? So that they had the data behind them to understand what a deal in that level should be discounted. And then the third component was productivity. And what should we expect from those types of people that if they had production of, let's just hypothetically say 100K this quarter, could they build pipeline of 200K the following quarter? And if they had forecasting participation of a buck 50 this quarter, could they participate at 200K in a forecast next quarter? And so we have ops start presenting that type of information, our sales operation folks, giving that data to our sales leaders. Again, three simple measurements every single solitary quarter so they could not just look at the participation numbers of how the team did, but was 80% of the team participating in building pipeline and 85% of them were actually forecasting deals. And how was their discounting discipline doing relative to how they'd done the quarter before? And lo and behold, after just a couple quarters, what we found was number one, our productivity per head count was getting better quarter after quarter after quarter. Our participation in terms of people participating in building pipeline and forecasting deals for when I first joined, we were roughly 35% in that first quarter, which was horrific. I think that's a simple way to describe it. We were up in the 80s within 12 months. And then what we found in our discounting discipline here 3 years later from when we started, we've had consistently over the last 3 years the best discounting discipline, meaning that we have the most consistency for deals that sit in various ranges, that we are consistently in those ranges, and that our best deals are getting our best discounts and our lowest price deals are not getting super aggressive discounts. Now, there are going to be times where you need to maybe quote buy the business because of competition, but we've built up enough goodwill that those are outliers, and they're easy to explain and not trends that we can repeat. And as a result of that, this has become the mantra by which we manage our business. And it's led to really, really positive growth of our business over the last 3 years and a compounded annual growth rate of greater than 30%, which is far outpacing the rest of the business. And it's also led to better retention rate or revenue retention of our current client base over that period of time because we've had this kind of maniacal focus on the growth of the business. But again, it's three simplistic things for the leaders to look at in addition to some of the planning pieces that we talked about earlier.
I love that. Congratulations. I think that's an amazing outcome from what you started there.
Give a lot of credit to the leadership team I have in place. I could put some things out there. They're the ones who've executed. I give a ton of credit to my leadership and my ops team. They're the ones who've really done the work.
Congrats to them. I have a couple of questions around that. I think it's really fascinating what you did. And I think part of the question you answered already. How long did it take you to fully utilize the results of that framework? And have you also met some resistance in the process?
So interestingly enough, I do an all hands call every single quarter with my organization, which is about 400 people between reps, SEs, channel, marketing, all that sort, inside sales. And we actually publish the statistics of participation, productivity, and pricing discipline. I don't publish what the numbers are, but we publish how we're doing in a pricing discipline across how we compare to the rest of Europe, Asia Pac, the Americas, where public sector sits. So I got in the habit of publishing that data every single quarter, and we do it in concert with how our ARR is growing. So it's very easy for them to see as we have continued to stay focused on these three Ps, they're seeing the ARR continue to rise quarter after quarter after quarter. Now, there was a little bit of pushback on, hey, I'm going to have the natural sales cycle public sector is I'm going to have one good quarter and I may have another quarter that is not as good. You can have this kind of lumpiness. I understand that can be the potential to have happen. And certainly I've experienced that over a period of time. The point is not that a you have to deliver the same value per number in terms of dollar revenue every single quarter. That's not the objective. Participation doesn't talk about necessarily the dollar volume. The question becomes, are you equally participating in terms of if I delivered 3 deals last quarter, can I deliver 3 deals this quarter? And they may not necessarily all be of the same equal value. It's about equal participation constantly. I'm constantly building pipeline. I'm constantly forecasting deals. I'm, quote, not taking time off because I had a great quarter last quarter. It's keeping that kind of mindset. And so once the reps and the teams understood that, the pushback became much less. You're not looking for me to repeat and do another $1 million deal again this quarter. I'm just looking for you to continue that guidance. And quite honestly, for a lot of people, as they got over target, got over their plan, and they were in accelerators, they didn't care whether the deal was 50K, 100K. They were in accelerators. They wanted to do as much as they possibly could. So building into that mindset became a real, real positive.
Love it.
But I think drawing the correlation between how we were doing in the three Ps and then being able to see the growth of our ARR every single quarter over quarter, year over year, I think helped them be able to see, hey, focusing on these things, while maybe it's just a happy coincidence, we've been able to see our productivity grow greatly. We've been able to see our participation be some of the best in the company and our pricing discipline be some of the best in the country. And those two, I don't think there's no reason to believe these aren't directly correlated. And in fact, as new people have come on board, you start to see the more senior reps helping the more junior reps buy into these same concepts. Our inside sales rep learn these kind of disciplines very early on, early in their career. So they're applying them as they continue to grow with inside the business. And I just think it makes us better business people at the end of the day. And that's what I'm really trying to cultivate, not just good sellers, but good business people.
Amazing. Amazing. Let's look a little bit ahead here, Bill. If we were sitting down at some point in a few years, let's say 5 years from now, what would surprise us most about how government buys and how sellers will need to adapt at that time?
Wow, that's a great question. I think that um, I see a couple things. I've been I've been surprised at how quickly government has adopted the use of the marketplaces by some of the hyperscalers.
Hmm.
And quite frankly, we don't see that as a competitive aspect. We just see it as another channel to market. Our partners are able to participate in that no different than they were able to participate before. If you're familiar with, the Amazons and the Microsofts have these contracts that have volume capacity, and so the customer's effectively buying down part of that volume capacity by acquiring another technology software under those contracts. Our partners can participate as a party to those. Everybody wins. I didn't think that would come on board as quickly as it has. So, I think we'll continue to see growth in those particular areas. And so I think when you're building out an organization, people will take that more into account as a channel to market. I definitely think that some of the AI tools that are out there will make it a little bit easier for you to help do some of the planning around your market, where before you may have an inside sales rep, um, or a BDR team doing more cold calling. I think you'll be able to make much more definitive warm calls in some respects, or much more focused calls, because of the intelligence you'll be able to gather from the market in terms of making some of those introductions. And so I think that'll be actually a positive that may very well compress the sales cycle, or at least eliminate some of the cost of your sales introduction piece. And I think the third component, which we're starting to see a little bit of now, as technologies has continued um, to evolve, where we saw a huge move to the cloud over the course of the last couple years. We have certainly seen a little bit of a shift back somewhat on-prem. Um, and it's not all applications, it's just a certain set of applications. And in part because some of the on-prem functionality vis-a-vis private cloud management software has gotten considerably better.
Hmm.
And so the ability for a client to have a technology that they or a set of applications that they can run on-prem in that environment, I've been surprised. I did not necessarily see that coming. Um, I think the last component of this is you have to be open to change in the curveball that you just did not plan and did not see coming. I think too often that think we have a really good handle on the direction that our client is going to move, and we think we have a good handle on the dynamics that the market is driving. A- And and maybe this move towards AI is a great example of the um, the hyperscalers or the AI companies and the secondary and tertiary impacts that have happened. And maybe another example is what's going to happen with quantum and what does that even do to the AI markets. But what is so unbelievably interesting to me is how our customers are trying to keep up with information about how does this all operate in their environment? How do they continue to take advantage of these technologies? And the best way they're doing that is when one of our people knock on their door and say, "Let me talk to you about the business or mission challenges that you have." And we do a good job of really listening to what their problems are and listening to not just the technical portions of it, but in some cases, what are the political issues that they're struggling with as well. If the issues were straight technical, they plug them into a search engine and they get back an answer very quickly. So some of the issues are a lot more deep rooted and they have political undertones to them. And that's something an AI engine and a Google search engine can't solve for them, and that's where I think our profession still has an awful long way to go, where we're gonna help continue to solve these issues for quite a great deal of time to come, and that's why I think this is an awful exciting, market to be in for really the foreseeable future. Now I say that notwithstanding, should I win the lottery tomorrow, I will not be in this business. But if that does happen, this is going to be a great market to be in for a long, long time.
Love it. Bill, are you up for a quick lightning round?
Sure.
Uh, Tell me the one habit that keeps you steady on chaotic, difficult, tough days.
I think it may sound crazy, but it's laughter. I have a couple friends outside the business. Our group text, we try to tell each other jokes and stuff like that. A couple of them are in financial services, one's in mortgage banking, and we tell each other stupid jokes throughout the day. And when the tension's high, if I can laugh at something stupid
Oh,
and just take my mind off work completely, it's the best.
God, I need to be part of that group. I tell you, I thought absolutely laughter could solve so many things, can it? Absolutely. Tell me, if you'd have to describe public sector selling in one word, what would that be?
Fulfilling.
Interesting choice. Okay. Thank
I
you.
think if
Um,
you think about it, whether you're talking about on the national scale, whether you're talking about on the local municipality scale, on the state scale, we're helping solve problems for the citizens of this country, whether it's a local level or a national level. And when you're doing that, that can be quite fulfilling. You may not read about it in the newspaper, or you may see it on the news, and you know that you played a small part, or maybe you played a large part in that role. And I recall I worked for a very large company right out of college. I don't mind saying this. I worked for IBM right out of college,
right.
and on the doors over top of our office for our federal sales office, it said, "Through these doors walk people committed to America's success." I thought that was a great saying,
Hmm.
and I still think that's true today.
Love it. Love it. My last quick lightning question for you is you talked a lot about outcome-based selling, outcome selling. Tell me the top three skills or behaviors that elite salespeople need to execute to be elite.
On listening, planning, execution,
In that order?
and probably in that order.
Right, right, right. Absolutely. Well, when you look at that, it's not really difficult, is it?
No, I mean, I think that a lot of the things that we do are not on the surface as you look to describe them, the description items probably wouldn't be complex. Um, but it's not everybody who can ultimately do them, and do them at the level that you need to do them on a consistent basis. Um, but I am a firm believer that there's only a certain subset of people in this industry that want to work in this particular arena because of some of the complexities and the time it takes to achieve and success can take a long time. But if you're in it and you're successful in it, you end up loving it. And a lot of us stay in this career in this particular market forever. And it's because we just love it. We enjoy watching our clients, and we enjoy seeing the impact of our business across the country on a daily basis.
Bill, you've been an absolute amazing guest. Thank you for your time. Thank you for paying into the collective pool of knowledge here, and I know our listeners very much appreciate your tips and thought leadership to that topic. Thank you.
Harry, I've greatly enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me. I hope you have a lovely day.
Thank you, my lovely listeners. Listening to Bill today was very interesting, and you can't help but notice that the clarity that Bill brought to this world, most people consider impossible, complex. Public sector seller is fooling. I should reframe that again. Public sector selling is full of shifting priorities, full of long sales cycle, shadow hierarchies, and unpredictable funding. Yet Bill shows us that leadership doesn't have to mirror that chaos. His lens is simple: participation, productivity, and pricing discipline. But the real insight is how you use that framework, not as pressure, but as a rhythm in a way, as a way of helping teams move consistently, confidently, and with purpose. Conversations like this remind us of great leadership isn't louder, it's really clearer and more down to the point. If this episode gave you a new perspective, share it with another leader, somebody you think could benefit from what Bill shared with us today. Subscribe to us on the b2bsalestrends.com, go to globalperformancegroup.com, and or also watch this on our YouTube channel or share it with somebody you think this would help. Until the next time, my lovely people, look after yourself, look after your loved ones, and of course, your B2B customers. Bye-bye.